Welcome to Lost in Revision. All of our content is public domain, literature, fairy tales, and folklore. All of our music is by Nathan Hubble and is used with his permission. Thanks, and enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to Lost in Revision, brought to you by Superb Owl. I'm here as always with two of my favorite humans, Angel and Polly. Did you realize we're recording during the Super Bowl today, Angel? And also, how are you?
Okay, so with the how are you? Well, I'm hoping you will be able to edit out enough of my coughing for anything I say to be understandable. The flu has found its way once again to our humble abode, and the air is full of vapor steam. Now, connected to that, I did not remember that today was the Superb Owl, and I had to go to the store to get more medication for my household full of flu, and found myself surrounded by the most lost herd of men wandering through a grocery store that I have ever experienced.
Unsupervised men.
Oh no!
Shopping.
It was
How will they survive?
Just pointing to the cracker tray.
the stunned looks of lost on all the bearded flannel wearing men in the store was just sort of like, what have I walked into?
Well, it's obvious you live in Texas.
Yes.
So how about you, Polly?
Well, I did know that it was Super Bowl Sunday because my coworkers were in the break room partaking of, I don't know, various chipses and dipses and not working. At one point, I heard somebody holler at the manager, "We need you to be working and not watching the game."
I hope that everybody enjoying the Super Bowl is having a really good time cosplaying for their sportsing teams. Go teams. Whoever it is.
Go Chiefs or Eagles or whichever one wins. Because it's Chiefs and Eagles. I know that.
All week long, my students kept going, "Miss Adams, who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl?" And I would be like, Saints. And they would look at me so confused.
But they're not playing.
They're not playing. Well, okay. So who do you want to win? Saints?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change my answer. It was kind of fun.
Moving on from the Super Bowl, how are you, Polly?
I am exhausted, but I'm well. The flu hasn't gotten me. Knock on wood. Winter came back. I left for work last night. I didn't take a jacket because it was balmy and humid, and I came home very cold today because sometime between 9:00 last night and 3:00 this afternoon, during which time I was at my various jobs, it went from balmy and warm and humid to icy cold.
Oh, yeah. That took me completely by surprise today. I got in my car in the garage, and I had no idea what had happened to the weather. And I went to the store for the more vapor steam, right? And my little spring T-shirt was not up to what greeted me when I opened the car door. That was squeal-worthy gusts of wind, completely.
Yeah, it is supposed to snow again here this week.
Yay, snow. Everyone was rejoicing because Puxatawny Phil didn't see his shadow, and there was going to be an early spring, and I told them no. Phil is a foreign Yankee groundhog who has no say over any weather going on here in the South, and they need to consult a local groundhog, because I assure you, any groundhog in West Tennessee on that very bright and sunny midwinter day definitely saw his shadow. The Kaylee was out collecting her sticks all day, and one should be prepared for a full and hearty return of the cold and turbulent weather. Don't go consulting foreign marmots for your local weather. It doesn't work.
Always good advice. I will avoid consulting any marmots for my local weather. So why don't you tell us a little about the history and culture of this story?
Okay, well, this story took some hunting. It was hard to find.
I have to admit I did not do my homework.
The story was collected and printed by the Brothers Grimm in 1812 and has been around for much longer. There are versions of it from the Middle East and Europe from around the 1st century. It is a cautionary tale to youngsters not to let strangers into the house when they're alone. The version of the tale from Aesop was actually the first one that I read, and that one goat kid was a bit smarter than the 7 in Grimm's, but to paraphrase Agent K, a person is smart. People are stupid.
And kids especially, of both types.
One of the things I like about this story is that for once, the children actually at least make an effort to follow directions. They're still gullible and tricked, but at least they made a valiant effort to listen to their mother. This puts them leagues ahead of most fairy tale children in the intelligence category.
I'm sure that the oldest kid was very much trying to be in charge and probably trying to direct traffic in their panicked fleeing and trying to find hiding places, as eldest kids do.
That's how the wolf found all the other ones, because he told them where to go.
The wolf was at the door listening. Okay, you hide in the cabinet. You hide under the bed.
And the littlest one went to the clock without being instructed to.
Well, nobody was paying attention to the littlest one. They never do. Albrecht Pfister's Der Edelstein, which was the first book to be printed in German, contains a version of this story, but I could only find it in German, so I was unable to determine which tale was related to this one. I think it's supposed to be number 33, but from what I could read of what I thought was number 33, it didn't look like this.
Huh. I have gone down so many research rabbit holes since we started doing this podcast that end at books that I can't quite translate. But I have a blast learning new stuff along the way.
33, 33.
I think you probably understand more German than I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Ich spreche klein Deutsch. I said that totally wrong, but whatever. It doesn't really matter.
I don't verstehen Sie. No sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Ich verstehe, du nicht verstehen.
Yeah.
See, not see. That's Spanish. Wow. It got really bad in Puerto Rico when I was trying to learn Spanish. And the guy that was my foreman that was helping me, like with all the numbers on the grave sites and in Spanish, he also spoke German. So when I would say the numbers accidentally in German instead of Spanish, he would say, "Yeah, that's right." And neither one of us noticed that I was speaking German instead of Spanish. The language center of my brain is so overwhelmed, especially now that I'm learning Mandarin.
Your brain is gesputzled. When I was a child, we had a password. So if we children were at home alone because it was Gen X and who cared? We had a password. So if normal. Mother is out, father is out, and something happens, they're in a car crash, and they have to send somebody to come to the house and collect us, children. We had a password. It wasn't a specific thing.
We all had a password.
Oh, sure. But, ours wasn't a specific thing, just something with certain elements, so that if our parents had to send a stranger to us for any reason, they could prove that they did indeed come from our parents and weren't just there to abduct us, because everybody was getting abducted. It was the 80s. So like, if the password was "the eagle flies at midnight," it was not, for the record, and the person told us, I don't know, they said something about an eagle, that would be close enough to trust. In this case, the mother goat tried to do the same thing. She said, check his paws, listen to his voice. But the wolf was able to outsmart the young goats. He guessed the password. White paws and a softened voice were deemed close enough to trust, because
goats don't have paws.
They don't.
But this story did make me wonder if eating chalk could help my poor voice. I'm almost desperate enough to try it.
You could drink one of those chalky drinks.
Oh God, ew.
Like Pepto-Bismol through your throat.
But yeah, growing up, even though I was, part of that whole latchkey generation, we didn't have a password. The rule was no one was allowed to enter, period. I wasn't allowed to leave, period. And if anyone I didn't know tried to enter, I was under orders to phone the police and cause as much noise and bodily harm as possible. I was capable of a great deal of harm.
I can imagine. We had a password. We had a very, very specific password that I will not be mentioning here because I could probably use it in the future with any of my family. If they really need to know it's from me, I could use this password still.
Yeah, same. That's why I didn't say what our password was.
All right, so let's move on to the reading of the story, and then we can discuss it after.
The Wolf and the Seven Young Kids by Jakob and Wilhelm Grimm. Once upon a time there was an old goat. She had 7 little kids and loved them all, just as a mother loves her children. One day she wanted to go into the woods to get some food, so she called all 7 to her and said, "Children dear, I am going into the woods. Be on your guard for the wolf. If he gets in, he will eat up all of you, even your skin and hair. The villain often disguises himself, but you will recognize him at once by his rough voice and his black feet." The kids said, "Mother dear, we will take care of ourselves. You can go away without any worries." Then the old one bleated and went on her way with her mind at ease. It was not long before someone knocked at the door and called out,
"Open the door, children dear. Your mother is here and has brought something for each one of you."
But the little kids knew from the rough voice that it was the wolf. "We will not open the door," they cried out. "You are not our mother. She has a soft and gentle voice, but your voice is rough. You are the wolf." So the wolf went to a shopkeeper and bought himself a large piece of chalk, which he ate, making his voice soft. Then he came back and knocked at the door, calling out,
"Open the door, children dear. Your mother is here and has brought something for each one of you."
But the wolf laid one of his black paws inside the window. The children saw it and cried out, "We will not open the door. Our mother does not have a black foot like you. You are the wolf." So the wolf ran to a baker and said,
"I have sprained my foot. Rub some dough on it for me."
After the baker had rubbed dough on his foot, the wolf ran to the miller and said,
"Sprinkle some white flour on my foot for me."
The miller thought, "The wolf wants to deceive someone," and refused to do it. So the wolf said,
"If you will not do it, I will eat you up."
That frightened the miller, and he made the paw white for him. Yes, that is the way people are. Now the villain went for a 3rd time to the door, knocked at it, and said,
"Open the door for me, children. Your dear little mother has come home and has brought every one of you something from the woods."
The little kids cried out, "First show us your paw, so we may know you are our dear little mother." So he put his paw inside the window, and when they saw that it was white, they believed that everything he said was true, and they opened the door. But who came in? It was the wolf. They were terrified and wanted to hide. One jumped under the table, and the second one into the bed, the third one into the stove, the fourth into the kitchen, the fifth into the cupboard, the sixth under the wash basin, and the 7th into the clock case. But the wolf found them all, and with no further ado he swallowed them down his throat, one after the other. However, he did not find the youngest kid, the one who was in the clock case. After satisfying his appetite, he went outside and lay down under a tree in the green meadow and fell asleep. Soon afterward, the old goat came home from the woods. Oh, what a sight she saw there! The door stood wide open. Table, chairs, and benches were tipped over. The wash basin was in pieces. The covers and pillows had been pulled off the bed. She looked for her children, but they were nowhere to be found. She called them by name, one after the other, but no one answered. When she at last came to the youngest, a soft voice cried out, "Mother dear, I'm hiding in the clock case." She took it out, and it told her that the wolf had come and had eaten up all the others. You can just imagine how she cried for her poor children. Finally, in her despair, she went outside, and the youngest kid ran with her. They came to the meadow, and there lay the wolf by the tree, snoring so loudly that the branches shook. She looked at him from all sides and saw that something was moving and jiggling inside his full belly. "Good gracious," she thought, "is it possible that my poor children whom he has swallowed down for his supper can still be alive?" The mother goat sent the kid home to fetch scissors and a needle and thread. Then she cut open the monster's paunch. She had scarcely made one cut before a little kid stuck its head out, and as she continued to cut, one after the other, all 6 jumped out, and they were all still alive. They were not even hurt, for in his greed the monster had swallowed them down whole. How happy they were! They hugged their dear mother and jumped about like a tailor on his wedding day. But the mother said, "Go now and look for some big stones. We will fill the godless beast's stomach with them while he is still asleep." The 7 kids quickly brought the stones, and they put as many of them into his stomach as it would hold. Then the mother hurriedly sewed him up again. He was not aware of anything, and never once stirred. The wolf finally awoke and got onto his legs. Because the stones in his stomach made him very thirsty, he wanted to go to a well and get a drink. But when he began to walk and to move about, the stones in his stomach knocked against each other and rattled. Then he cried out, "What rumbles and tumbles inside of me? I thought it was kids, but it's stones that they be." When he got to the well and leaned over the water to drink, the heavy stones pulled him in and he drowned miserably. When the 7 kids saw what had happened, they ran up and cried out, "The wolf is dead! The wolf is dead!" And with their mother they danced for joy around the well.
And we are back. So, what is your favorite part or version of this story?
Reading this story, it just speaks to the current climate. Even when the baker caves under pressure and threats and gives the wolf his disguise as requested,
Yeah, it did make me think of a lot of how the bullies of the world are running things these days. Even people who want to do the right things somewhere in their heart end up backing down and going silent out of self-preservation.
sometimes
Ugh.
like the favorite part or version of the story is not necessarily a good or a positive or a fun thing. But I think I definitely really did like feel the relevance of the story.
Yeah. I've kind of gone back and forth about my favorite part of the story because while I love the mother being able to rescue her children and the kids, at least trying several times to do what they were told, both of those things speak straight to my heart. But there were things that I had issues with in both of them, so it made it hard for it to be like, "Ooh, this is my favorite part." So I think it was just kind of nothing really jumped out at me with this one.
I think that my favorite part is that I identified very much with the wolf when he went to take a nap under the tree after eating a big meal. Like a nap in the sunshine after a nice meal. I don't
Same.
know if I could really sleep with a bunch of stuff moving around in my stomach, though. I do like a good nap after a big meal.
Yeah, I'm so rumbly in my tumbly.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if that's where that came from. All right, so what is your least favorite part or version of the story?
I like the Egyptian version, which doesn't turn out so well for the goat.
Okay,
Bear
so
with
she did
me.
her homework and I didn't. I need to go read the Egyptian version now.
Good luck. I couldn't find it.
Oh,
She read a
So you like it?
synopsis of it.
oh.
What I like the Egyptian version, which doesn't turn out so well for the goat. It speaks well on not allowing others to come between you and your trusted friends with sweet words and charming lies. What I don't like is how hard it is to find English text for any versions other than the Grimm's.
Hey, you can use the new Chinese version of AI. It's called DeepSeek. It works really well with translations. Trust me.
Well, I need to go find the Egyptian version because I really like stories that caution against charming lies.
All I could find was a synopsis.
Yeah.
I couldn't even find a text.
The part that bothered me the most from this story is them doing the typical cut them open while they're sleeping and they don't even notice. Even when I was a kid, stuff like that would give me pause. I mean, I was okay with talking critters. That's I expect that in a fairy tale, right? But cutting someone open just seems like it's bound to wake them up.
Right?
That's what
Like,
chloroform is for.
and oh no. And they celebrated when he drowned. So they wanted him to die, but all they had to do was just leave his guts hanging open. Why go through all of the effort to sew him back up?
I don't know. Vultures is just not dignified. But, I mean, I guess if cutting him open and pulling the kids out didn't do him in, filling him with rocks and sewing him back up was sure to do the trick. But she used her sewing scissors to cut flesh and hair. Her sewing scissors.
Right? Well, at least it's not as bad as cutting paper with sewing scissors.
Or tape. Oh my God.
Oh, tape is the worst.
Well, sandpaper is really the worst.
When the kids used my sewing scissors to cut tape, honestly, I don't know if it was the kids or if it was my ex, but I mean, he's an ex for a reason, so we'll leave it at that. I tried to do a really, really slippery material in a costume. And when I went to cut it, the scissors just like glued themselves to the fabric, and it was
God.
terrible. It was
Oh,
awful.
no.
I was so angry.
It's heartbreaking.
Oh, they were my good ones too.
See, I like crochet. I can just cut my yarn with my pocket knife.
Yeah. Well, I like working with leather, and I have designated leather scissors as well. And if someone were to use my leather scissors on cloth, I would get just as angry.
As one does. Maybe it was her goat scissors.
So yeah, I would have to agree that my least favorite part was also that she didn't just leave him open. That's my least favorite part.
Imagine
So
the
let's
poor
move
wolf
on
waking
to
up and being, behold, my guts.
behold. What do you think are the original lessons that this story was trying to convey?
Well, when your mother says to not let anyone in at the door when she's away, you should listen. This is clearly a cautionary tale to children who may be left at home. Don't let people in the door.
Just don't.
Door stays closed.
Just
Yes,
don't.
most definitely. As one of the infamous latchkey generation kids, this was a strongly emphasized rule. Strongly being an understatement.
Yeah. Don't let anybody in was pretty much the rule. Even though I walked home from school like 2 miles in the 4th grade.
Yeah, but once you're in the house.
Once I'm in the house, you can't talk to anybody.
But this has become a strongly emphasized rule for just surviving as adults now, not just latchkey kids. I mean, how many of us have like 3 locks on the door now and a Ring doorbell so that we can see anybody who's approaching the door? And I mean, it's just...
Well, we're still the latchkey kids, and nobody's asking anybody if they know where we are anymore.
We don't even like answering the phone. We just don't like people. We were latchkey kids. We're fine on our own. Just leave us alone.
Like once we figured out that nobody was asking anybody if they knew where we were, we figured out that we were on our own now.
Do you know where your children are?
I've never thought about that, but that could have... No, but the latchkey generation needing to feel that security in their homes, I never connected that with the rise in things like Ring doorbells and stuff, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We're all paranoid.
PTSD is a heck of a thing. So what do you think that the modern lesson would be?
In light of the recent acceleration of attacks on immigrant families in the U.S., this tale is apt. Don't let anyone in at your door. Even if they present a good argument, be careful who you trust, because sometimes the wolf carries a warrant.
Always ask to see the warrant and know your rights.
I think this is also a story about looking beyond the obvious. Mom said, don't let anyone with these criteria. Wolf figures out the criteria and manages to fool the kiddos because they didn't stop to think, this person is making claims that are obvious lies. Even if they do a good job of faking these things, lies mean don't trust. In a world filled with propaganda, you have to just stop accepting statements at face value. And I think that could actually be the real modern lesson for this story.
So true. And the really, really true modern lesson from what you just said is that propaganda works, and you have to fact check your life right now.
Everything. My phone is filled every day. 10, 20, 30 messages or calls every day of people. Oh, there's a grant. You have to click this link or you're going to miss all this money. You can sign up for health care, but you got to click this link. And none of it is
Never
real.
click the link. Never let the wolf in the door. Never click the link.
Right. And if you actually want to know about what's in a message, if it looks legitimate enough, you go and find, Google whatever it's about and find your own links and do your own research.
Yeah.
They're not going to contact you about the grant. You have to go looking for them. Nobody is calling you about a grant.
Nobody wants to give
I'm
you
just
free
talking
money.
about all propaganda and all of these,
all propaganda.
even all of the stuff that is about all of the current politics and everything. Always search for it. Never click the link. It's just don't
I did
trust
my own
anybody.
research does not mean go on YouTube and watch a video.
YouTube isn't research.
That's
and
not
technically
research.
we're not doing research technically. We're just researching in a very college essay way. It's still always follow the money. Whoever's benefiting, figure out who it benefits before you trust them.
I did my own research does not mean I went on the internet and watched somebody else's research.
Opinion.
Not research.
Yes.
Unless you're a scientist and you have a peer-reviewed study, you didn't do research.
So somebody else's opinion is not research.
No.
And goats don't have paws.
And goats don't have paws. And these kids should know that. They have their own little cloven hooves. Cute little things, too.
So cute. My coworker came in today and everybody's like, wow, you look tired. He's like, yeah, I was up all night delivering kids. Like he was literally up all night birthing goats. And then he came to work.
Yikes.
So in closing, what do you think happened after the story?
Oh, that well wasn't very good to use for a while. Dead bodies aren't good for wells. I remember this old Rutger Hauer movie where they threw the carcass of a cow, it was like a plague cow or something, into the well in an attempt to break a siege, thus poisoning the water source for the castle. So then the heroine had to let in the villains. I don't know if there was ever a hotter baddie than Rutger Hauer. I gotta say, so pretty.
Oh no, there's the.
I don't know.
I can send you pictures.
Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber definitely gives competition for hottie bad guys.
Alan
Just
Rickman in
my
anything.
book. Yeah, but as for the story, so after Dancing for Joy, I think they possibly formed a family band. Since 7-member pop groups tend to do really well. All that singing and dancing seemed a much better option than living in a house with a poisoned well. Mom cleaned her sewing scissors so she could make cute costumes for them. And she also chewed some of the chalk so she could add some nice smooth bass lines for the kids to harmonize with.
I just have scenes of goats screaming in my head now. Goats going, ah!
You doing that made me think of the Taylor Swift song Goat meme.
And we're back to the Super Bowl.
I mean,
is Taylor Swift going to win the Super Bowl this year?
I hope so, just for her sake.
It's either Taylor Swift
I'm
or
really
Liberty
loving
Bell.
the fact that Angel made the mother goat a bass, which
well, have you heard my voice lately?
I mean, have you heard a goat lately?
my grandmother was a bass. That's like my dad is a bass, and my grandmother sang the same as him.
Yes.
So I really do appreciate that the mom goat was bass.
So Mama sang bass, and Daddy sang tenor.
That's why when people are like, actual altos are really rare, and I'm like, I'm an actual alto.
I don't know what I count as. I think I'm qualified as an alto. I can't reach the soprano so much anymore, but I can still sing tenor.
Yeah, probably an alto. Altos are pretty much tenors in female form.
Yeah.
Which is why they're rare. People think they're altos, but they're really...
I can sing contralto, but it's a reach.
That's what I was thinking of. They're usually contraltos, not altos. Thanks for joining us today. Check us out on Patreon, and you can help us meet our small goal of breaking even and covering our expenses. Your support helps pay for all of the things that podcasting requires, and helps keep this show alive and growing. If you can't afford to support us financially, go give us a good review, subscribe or follow, and share with your friends and family. Feel free to fact check us and offer suggestions to make our show better for you. You can also send us an email at lostinrevisionpodcast@gmail.com.
There's a lot more waiting for us all at the end of the road.